I was so nervous. I couldn't believe I was going to meet this sage. My heart was pounding. I was just a wreck. I walked across the threshold, and it was like I walked into a void of silence. It was so intense. Everything stopped. My body stopped. I wasn't nervous. It wasn't like I was dissociated. It was a tomb of silence. We sat on the couch, and honestly, I don't remember a thing he said to me. I was so completely in this place of silence. And then the interview was over, and I remember somehow gliding towards the threshold in this place of complete silence, and I walked out over the threshold and was hit. You know those images of Lady Macbeth rubbing her hands? That's what it was like for me. I felt all of this stuff from my past, not all of it dirty. I didn't know what to do. It brings tears to my eyes thinking about it. It took me weeks to come back into something normal. It was a psychic cleansing. It was a little frightening. Back then, silence wasn't how I thought of the quest. It was studying, meditating. So that experience of silence was so unexpected. I didn't know how to understand it at the time. It's almost like there wasn't room for any personal self.
Around PB, it felt like he was a giant pendulum that had stopped. And in that stopping, the whole world was born. It was like the peace that passeth understanding. Utter peace, visceral, palpable.
I told him that I would get very depressed when the sun went down, and he said, just listen to your overself and you'll never feel lonely again. At some point the conversation just stopped and we meditated. I have no idea how long. When it was over, I was just enveloped in silence and peace and light. It was incredible. It was very profound. It was total peace. I wasn't sure how I could drive. I was so gone. It was beautiful. I was very fortunate. And that's it. I felt that this experience with PB was something to fulfill, to find that silence in myself. This has been my quest, the path that I've been on all my life.
The first time I met PB was not in the flesh. Everything fell apart. I got arrested, ran out of money. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. Spent a week in Boston carousing with my friends. In the morning, this thing happened. I was sleeping on the floor. I woke up, lying on my back. All of a sudden, I felt my chest melting. It was very pleasant. As it was happening, I saw a giant fetal eye opening and closing with my breath, which had slowed down. And then all of a sudden I was looking down at my body, and I didn't feel any physical sensations. And I had this moment of clarity that rippled through me, and it came with the words, "Now I know without a shadow of a doubt that I am a soul." The next thing I remember was the melting sensation again, and there at my feet was PB. He was just looking at me. He didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. Gradually I came back into my body, and I felt so light and good that I decided to stay an extra day. I was driving from Boston to Buffalo and thought that I might as well stop off and see a relative in Ithaca and visit Wisdom's Goldenrod Spiritual Center for the first time. I showed up about 11 p.m. and was greeted with surprise. The person said, "It is interesting that you showed up today, because PB showed up today." That was the summer PB came to Ithaca. I was intrigued. He had showed up, and I had showed up.
There was a point where we got very quiet in the beginning, very quiet together. just sat without speaking. I've read over and over again in his writing on world mind and individual mind about what happens when you meet a sage, what a sage's blessing is. That's what was transpiring in those moments. I remember feeling a lot of embarrassment over thoughts that I was having, but I knew that having that one meeting was worth a whole lifetime.
He smiled, and when he smiled, it was like there were rays coming out of his mouth. It was so beautiful, and I relaxed.
It was a very dry summer, and I remember someone complaining to PB about the lack of rain. PB said, "So why don't we look into how to get the rain to come?" It hadn't rained for 2 or 3 weeks. It was so dry. After lunch, I helped him put his trench coat on, and all of a sudden, it started to rain. Everyone looked at each other. That was pretty special.
I do know that when people get together to talk about him, there's a special atmosphere that arises that is not like anything else I know. This sounds very Fantasyland, but I do feel he is present. Seeing him in the flesh was one thing, a great privilege, but I think that his presence is even more intensely there through his work. He's out of the body, but he's around. I feel his presence every day. In the attic, PB found an old hat with ear flaps. It was like a kid's hat, a silly hat. He tried it on and we started laughing. And then PB started laughing too, so hard that the 3 of us were doubling up with laughter. It was a laughter glimpse.